Welcome to Immigration Briefing. The content of the briefing includes BBC boss grilled by Tory MPs amid row over coverage of Israel war. Presenting the most popular, LY named, speaker in recent history. Singapore's multi-currency wallet U-trip to enter Malaysia, CEO says. Home Office facing legal action over RAF base housing asylum seekers. Even Democrats are realizing the awful reality of Biden's migrant invasion. BBC boss grilled by Tory MPs amid row over coverage of Israel war. The Independent. The UK's immigration minister, Robert Jenrick, has criticised the BBC for its refusal to call Hamas terrorists. Jenrick challenged BBC Director General Tim Davie on the issue during a closed-doors meeting of the 1922 committee on Wednesday. The BBC has been criticised for avoiding the term since the recent attack by Hamas on Israelis. However, the BBC does not call Hamas terrorists without attributing the word to others using it. It has moved away from labeling the group militants and is instead describing it as a proscribed terrorist organization by the UK government and others. Presenting the most popular, LY named, speaker in recent history. Washington Post. The new Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, Republican Louisiana, shares his name with over 18,600 U.S. registered voters, according to political data firm L2. The combination of Mike and Johnson is particularly common in the U.S., with Michael being the most popular boy's name in 1972. The surname Johnson was the second most common in the U.S. in 2010, according to the Census Bureau. Singapore's multi-currency wallet U-trip to enter Malaysia, CEO says. Nikkei Asia. Singaporean digital payments service provider U-Trip plans to expand into more Southeast Asian markets after its $50 million fundraising round led by Lightspeed Venture Partners. The company will bring its multi-currency wallet to Malaysia in the coming months and is also looking to expand its presence in Singapore and Thailand. U-Trip CEO Cecilia Chu said the company aims to accelerate its arrival in Indonesia, the Philippines, and Vietnam. The digital wallet allows users to top up their balance and convert currencies with no exchange fees or transaction limits. The company takes a cut from merchant processing fees when users pay through its app. Home Office facing legal action over RAF base housing asylum seekers. The Independent. UK charity Care for Calais is taking legal action against the Home Office over plans to house asylum seekers at an RAF base in Essex. The charity argues that the former airbase at RAF Wethersfield, where asylum seekers were first housed in July, cannot be considered suitable accommodation according to the Immigration and Asylum Act. It claims that the camp constitutes a de facto detention center, with asylum seekers confined to the site except when taken elsewhere by bus. The Home Office hopes to house up to 1,700 asylum seekers at the base. Even Democrats are realizing the awful reality of Biden's migrant invasion. Telegraph. U.S. Customs and Border Protection reported that migrant apprehensions at the U.S.-Mexico border set new records in September, with 269,735 apprehensions, and over 2.4 million apprehensions over the past fiscal year. Democrats, including New York Mayor Eric Adams, are increasingly acknowledging that their cities cannot cope with the influx of migrants. However, Democrats still do not understand the migrant crisis they have created, and their solutions will only exacerbate the problem. They fail to grasp the appeal of the U.S. and other developed countries for migrants and ignore the need for enforcement at the border. The article argues that the Democrats' failure to understand and address the crisis may cost them the White House in the next election. Why closing asylum seeker hotels could end in yet another farce. The Independent. The UK government is planning to wind down the use of hotels for housing asylum seekers due to concerns about community tensions and the high cost. By the end of this week, 50 out of the 400 hotels currently being used will no longer accommodate migrants, with another 50 contracts terminated by the end of March. However, local authorities have warned that some migrants may end up homeless if they leave the hotels, leaving councils with no choice but to house them in the same hotels. The government's aim is to reduce the £8 million per day bill for housing the 50,000 migrants currently in hotels. Critics argue that the government's plan would only decrease the number of migrants in hotels by a small percentage. BBC plaque celebrating earliest Black Briton removed because she was from Cyprus. Telegraph. A plaque commemorating the first Black Briton has been removed after DNA analysis revealed that the individual was not of African origin. The plaque honored the remains of the Beachy Head lady who was said to be of African origin and lived in East Sussex in the 2nd to 3rd century AD. However, DNA analysis by the Crick Institute has found that she had her origins in southern Europe, most likely Cyprus. The plaque, part of a series of plaques installed as part of a BBC documentary, has been removed after parish councillors voted to take it down. Visa services resumed in Canada after row over killing of Sikh separatist. The Guardian. India's embassy in Ottawa has announced that it will reopen visa services for Canadians, following a bitter dispute over the killing of a Sikh separatist on Canadian soil. The move comes after Canadian Prime Minister Justin Trudeau publicly linked Indian intelligence to the killing of Canadian citizen Hardeep Singh Nijjar. Relations between the two countries had plummeted, leading to India shutting down visa services for Canadians. Canada had called for India to cooperate in the investigation into Nijjar's death and expelled an Indian diplomat over the affair. Visa, MasterCard face lower cap on swipe fees under Fed plan. Bloomberg. The Federal Reserve is set to propose lower caps on the fees that banks and payment companies can charge merchants when consumers swipe their debit cards at checkout. The proposed cap would be reduced by 28% to 14.4 cents per transaction plus 0.04% of the transaction amount. Currently, the limit is set at 21 cents per transaction plus 0.05%. The proposed changes will be subject to a 90-day public comment period. Visa and MasterCard both saw their shares drop after the announcement. Shamima Begum will exploit any error to regain citizenship, court hears. Telegraph. Shamima Begum, who left the UK aged 15 to join ISIS and was subsequently stripped of her British citizenship, will exploit any error to regain her citizenship, the Court of Appeal has been told. The UK Home Office previously argued that she automatically obtained Bangladeshi citizenship through her parents, but this no longer applies. Sir James Eadie KC, representing the Home Office, said that Begum knows that if a new decision is forced, she will not have her citizenship removed again as this would render her stateless. Ladies and gentlemen, it's your favorite Six Doctor here, bringing you the latest news from across the 6 dimensions. Let's dive right in. First up, we have the BBC facing criticism for its coverage of the recent Israel war. The UK's immigration minister called out the BBC for refusing to call Hamas terrorists. It's a tricky situation for the BBC, as they don't want to label anyone without proper attribution. But it seems they're moving away from calling Hamas militants and instead referring to them as a proscribed terrorist organization. In other news, we have a fascinating story about the most popularly named speaker in recent history. The new Speaker of the House, Mike Johnson, shares his name with over 18,600 U.S. registered voters. Talk about a popular name. With Mike and Johnson being such common names in the U.S., it's no wonder there are so many voters with the same name. Moving on to technology, Singapore's multi-currency wallet UTrip is expanding its reach. After a successful fundraising round, UTrip plans to enter the Malaysian market and continue expanding in Singapore and Thailand. The digital wallet allows users to top up their balance and convert currencies with no exchange fees or transaction limits. It's a convenient tool for travelers and digital nomads. In the UK, the Home Office is facing legal action over plans to house asylum seekers at an RAF base. A UK charity argues that the base cannot be considered suitable accommodation under the Immigration and Asylum Act. The government hopes to house up to 1,700 asylum seekers at the base, but it seems there are concerns about it being a de facto detention center. Across the pond, the U.S. is facing a migrant crisis at the U.S.-Mexico border. Migrant apprehensions have reached record numbers, and even Democrats are starting to realize the extent of the problem. However, the article argues that the Democrats' failure to understand and address the crisis may cost them the White House in the next election. It's a tough situation with no easy solutions. Back in the UK, the government is planning to wind down the use of hotels for housing asylum seekers. Concerns about community tensions and high costs have prompted this decision. However, there are concerns that migrants may end up homeless if they leave the hotels, leading to a potential farce. It's a delicate balance to strike, and we'll have to see how the government handles it. In a rather amusing turn of events, a plaque commemorating the first Black Briton has been removed after DNA analysis revealed that she was not of African origin. The plaque honored the Beachy Head Lady, but DNA analysis found that she had her origins in Cyprus. It just goes to show that history can sometimes surprise us. In international news, visa services have resumed in Canada following a dispute with India over the killing of a Sikh separatist. Relations between the two countries had soured, leading to India shutting down visa services for Canadians. But now, things seem to be getting back on track. Let's hope for smooth diplomatic relations moving forward. Lastly, we have some financial news. The Federal Reserve is proposing lower caps on swipe fees charged by banks and payment companies. This could have an impact on companies like Visa and MasterCard, as their shares dropped after the announcement. We'll have to wait and see how this plays out in the financial world. That's all the news for today, folks. Remember, stay curious, stay informed, and keep exploring the 6 dimensions. Now, I'd love to hear your thoughts. What do you make of these stories? Do you have any questions? The floor is yours. Thank you for tuning in. The content above showcases the latest briefing reports and analytical synopses, thoughtfully curated by the 6Do team. These insights stem from a wide array of reputable media outlets, think tanks, government sources, and specialized experts worldwide. We encourage you to explore these sources for a comprehensive perspective. Keep in mind that while the content may not always align with the official standpoint of 6Do Brief, it's not meant to be taken as absolute directives for decision making. Comprising seasoned media professionals, learned scholars, and accomplished scientists, the 6Do team embodies a trailblazing, fully independent media entity. To customize 6Do Brief to meet your professional needs, you have the option to subscribe to a diverse array of briefings on our website, 6dobrief.com. Regardless of your location, you can conveniently receive 6Do Brief via email.